so I sold a 38 pistol in art class and 2 pairs of nunchucks. Here come that coyote, and he's down there trying to chew my feet up, and I'm going, and luckily that mesquite tree's in between is what saved me. When you're homeless and you're 14 years old, you don't sleep at all. We called up the Bigfoot one night.
Welcome to Rodeo time. Mr. Clay Reid in the house.
In the house.
Local celebrity. Probably bigger than local, but you are local to here. We're not far from each other.
Yeah.
And heard a lot about you. We've got some mutual friends.
Yeah.
That have said, hey, you got to talk to Clay. Cowboy with some stories.
Yeah.
Do you want one of these before we start?
No, sir. I've been drinking coffee since 4:30, so we might want to get through this without having to take a leak. So
I got you.
Yeah.
I like to drink a ranch field during a podcast. It just keeps me ready to go. Do you always wake up at 4:30?
No, I usually get up about midnight. I don't sleep much.
You get up at midnight?
Oh yeah. I'm part vampire, and I've been that way since my whole life. I was a homeless kid early on in my life, and when you're homeless and you're 14 years old, you don't sleep at all. You walk all during the night, and then you sleep during the day. So I don't get to sleep much during the day. But
that's where I want to start. Why were you homeless at 14?
We had some problems at the home life. You know, my dad had trouble, and my mom had trouble, and it just didn't work out. You know. And I really don't want to go into details about him out of respect for him, because he's gotten straight and done really well. He's a cattle buyer, and cattle buyers, you never know with them. But no, I was 14 years old, and I jumped out my window in the middle of the night, and didn't have nothing on but T-shirt, shorts, barefooted with snow on the ground. And I lived over there in Wichita, and right behind Target in Wichita Falls. Yeah, I lived there for about 6 months, and I'd go over there and drag him pallets. I made me a little old hut out of them pallets, and there was an old little set of willow trees up there, and that's where I lived until October when the flood came through, and it flooded all my stuff out. So I had to walk over to Iowa Park, 26 miles, and then I lived in a parked car over there for a while. But I've been off and on homeless since when I met my wife. You know a gal loves you when she'll come down there and stay in your tent with you. I lived right outside Archer City for about 2 years in a tent, and had it right up next to an old tank. My old buddy had about 2 acre land over there, and he had a little old tank and a not very good barn, and that's where I lived, right there in that deal, and was happy as a lark. Me and my little old blue heeler dog, Gizmo, and my wife, which girlfriend then, she'd come over and sleep there on the bedroll with me in my tent, and I'd ride everybody's crappy horses, you know. And
how old are you at this point?
At that point, I was probably 22, 23.
So from 14 to 22, where you were sleeping outside all the time?
No, in and out of homelessness. Like say, I walked back to Iowa Park, and I had some kinfolk over there, but they had enough kids to raise without worrying about me. So I lived in an old parked car and a abandoned grain elevator over there for a while. And I was a drifter. I drifted all over, and I guess it was I stayed in school for a while, and then the second week of my sophomore year, they were going to move me up varsity, not to start because they needed depth. And well, I hadn't eaten in about 2 days, so I sold a 38 pistol in art class and 2 pairs of nunchucks, and it turns out they frown on that. And they arrested me in class. They, Clay Reid, come to the office, please. And I said, oh no, this ain't going to be good. And it wasn't. And they took me to jail, threw me in jail, and I sat over there, and they said, that old detective, he said, hey, we need to talk to your dad. And I said, well, good luck. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. And they said, well, what about your mom? I said, I hadn't seen her in 3. And they kept me 3 days, and they finally just turned me loose and told me not to come back to Iowa Park High School. But
well, let me back up just a second. So I am curious just what it was like and what's your mindset, I guess, rather than me asking why you were homeless at 14. What I was really most curious at, and how I should have said that question, is what was it like being homeless at 14? So, I mean, even if you're out there for a month and then you find somewhere in a house to stay, still at 14 for a kid to I mean, that's a child essentially.
Yeah.
So what was it like living behind a Walmart at 14? Like just day to day, going to sleep at night.
Oh, it's scary. Well, the hardest part was just trying to find something to eat, and right there in Target in Wichita, they got a Pizza Hut and they got a Red Lobster. So I'd go over there at night in the Pizza Hut and they would throw all their food away in the trash and I'd eat out of that trash can in the deal. But I can tell you one thing I will not ever do is one night I thought I'd go big time and eat food out of the Red Lobster trash can. Well, it turns out you don't eat seafood out of a trash can because I crapped and I threw up for 3 days over that. So we went back to Pizza Hut.
So that's like a homeless hack.
Yeah.
Don't eat seafood out of a trash can. Eat pizza out of a trash can.
Exactly.
Much safer.
And then, I'd go over there to Albertson and I'd stick a package of ham in my pocket. And, you kind of have to be a pretty good little thief sometimes. And, matter of fact, one time we were over there, they used to have a Kmart there in Wichita Falls. And I go over to Kmart and of course I had made friends with all the rich kids that lived, because right behind Target is the rich neighborhood. I had a good-looking old rich girlfriend, and her mama was sure proud when she brought my homeless to the house. And but we were over at Kmart that one day, and I walked out, and there was a mongoose bike. And boy, back then, the mongoose was the greatest thing
yes,
ever.
Sir.
You had to have a mongoose bike. So I said, well, I always wanted a mongoose bike, so I jumped on that bike, and I had me a mongoose bike. So I rode it over there, and I rode all the way across town over to the country club, and there used to be a place over there, the general store, and it had the video games. That was back when video games were just coming out. And boy, I didn't have no money to do it, but I'd watch all the rich kids play the games. But I had my damn mongoose bike out there, and I'll be damned if somebody didn't steal my bike that I stole from somebody else.
Those rascals.
I said, who steals from a damn thief? I said, daggum, I couldn't see straight.
No honor among thieves.
No honor among thieves. But no, it was a pretty scary kind of deal.
What do you feel like? Because I want to move on into, later on in your life, your story, but I having never been homeless, right. I am very curious. I've read a couple of books about certain people that have been, and so it's all speculation for me, but what's maybe some of the lessons that have stuck with you later in life that you learned when you're living on the street?
The biggest thing I ever learned on living on the street is never judge somebody by the cover of the book until you read that book, because I met I used to sleep, when it got real cold, I'd go downtown Wichita Falls, and there's some old docks at the behind the back door theater, and that's where all the bums slept, because you can get underneath that sun gun and stay warm and everything. But I met an old guy named Mike, and Mike was from Pennsylvania, used to be a professor, because I could tell he was pretty articulate. He wasn't your average day bum. And one day I asked old Mike, I said, Mike, how did you get in this deal? Because he carried leatherback journals with him wherever he went. He was constantly writing stuff down. Finally, one day I asked him, I said, Mike, how did you get in this situation? He goes, well, he said, I used to be a professor at college in Pennsylvania. He said, one day I got a call. I was teaching class, and my wife and my 2 girls were killed in a car wreck.
Ooh.
And he said, I put them in the ground, and I walked away, and I hadn't been back, and that was 7 years ago. And he said, now, I may come back to life. He said, but I ain't ready right now. And he's writing those books every day. He kept a journal. He's going to write a book when it was all over. And I wished I'd have got his name. All I knew him by was Mike.
Do you think, what's the difference in just somebody that's homeless and a bum? Or are they interchangeable?
Well, yeah, some people just have episodes in their life that they just lose the will to become responsible, to do that day-to-day deal. And then some of them, you get on the drugs. And another guy, per se, was boy, he was a big old giant son of a gun. And he used to come out there and help us at the feed yard. We'd go down there to Faith Mission. This is after I wasn't homeless, but I'd go down there to the homeless to help the guys, and we brought this guy there, and he's a big 12 sandwich eating something good. And I noticed he had a big old giant Nebraska Cornhusker state champ or national championship ring on him. I said, hey, where the hell did you get that ring at? He goes, I earned that ring. He said, drugs have taken everything out of my life, but they ain't never getting that daggum ring. Yeah.
You think he was actually on the team?
I
or do you think he
was.
picked it
yeah,
up? Yeah.
I guarantee he was.
Was there a lot of people that would just kind of tell stories like that?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, there was guys that were just cool guys, and yeah, I had this one gay guy named Jerry Lee. God dog, he's a black man, and that son gun could tell some of the funniest stories. But I seen him years later. I guess we was about 19 years old, and we were having a party, and I happened to see old Jerry Lee on the streets down there in Wichita. I said, hey, Jerry Lee, come on, man. I went over there and BS with him. I said, Jerry Lee, you need to come over. We're going to go to a party over here at Iowa Park. He said, come on, go with us. He goes, oh, no. I know what you old country boys get me over there and kick my ass. I said, I guarantee you come with me. There ain't nobody kicking your ass. He said, we'll have a good time. And I just had, we brought him over there and had the best time. Took him back, kicked him out on Scott Street. And there he went. But that's the life he loved. He just, I think Jerry Lee could have done anything, but that was just the routine of his life, and he was just happy as a lark. And some of them are addicted to that lifestyle.
Out of all the homeless people that you'd interacted with, what percentage of them end up on drugs?
Oh, God, probably. I'll guarantee you 90% of them. Yeah. 90% of them are, or that's the reason they are on drugs. And, a lot of them, there was a guy from California. He'd been all over America. He'd stay down here depending on the weather. He moved around, and but yeah, that was how he got there, and he was addicted to that deal. He liked that bump.
Yeah.
But he was still a pretty good guy. He just had an addiction, everybody thinks that every guy that's an addict is a sorry son of a gun. Some of them just can't get off. Same with alcoholics. Alcohol is just as bad a drug as that crack rock ever was. And I know guys that have lost everything they had because of their Coors Light beer.
Yeah.
And, but
were you able to stay in that 10%?
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I wasn't ever. I grew up in that. That's what I grew up in. My whole family, I broke the mold with my deal, and I seen enough of that, and I seen enough broken families, and that's why me and my wife been together 34 years. And I'm not that guy.
That's good.
And I don't really even drink. Everybody has this Now, for a guy that don't like beer and don't like alcohol, now I've drank enough to float a battleship, because if it wasn't for alcohol, I don't think I would have ever talked to a girl in my lifetime. Because I tell people this, I used to be real shy, and they go, come on now. But I remember the first drunk I got, it was on cherry vodka, and I had the crush on this little old gal, and she was the sweetest thing ever, and but she didn't like me. But I drank that cherry vodka, got to talking to her, and then some guy come over and started up, and I wound up beating the lips off of him, and really after that I don't remember much, but I remember waking up. That was in Wichita. I remember waking up at Lake Buffalo on the other side of Iowa Park, and I was in the back seat of somebody's car that I don't even know, and some fat girl's got me by the hair, and she pulls my head up, and she goes, man, he'd be cute if he didn't have all that vomit on him. And yeah, so but yeah, that. But I liked it bringing me out of my shell, but I never liked alcohol. Yeah.
Did you find yourself in a lot of fights on the streets?
I was what they called a Kemp Street warrior. Kemp Street back in the day is you cruise Kemp. I remember the first time when I was homeless, I was 14. I went over there, and they used to have a Halliburton parking lot. And I thought, boy, I go over here with all all the high school kids, and that's what everybody did. You cruise Kemp Street in Wichita Falls, up and down, and every parking lot would be packed. It was just like the 50s. You see, in the old days, 50s, everybody parked, and it was like a big party every Friday, Saturday night. But I went to Halliburton parking lot one night, and I watched an old boy get stabbed, and I thought, well, I'm going back over to Target. This is a little rough for me. Yeah, these guys are serious. But yeah, I remember when I was 16 years old, they snuck me into Stetson's. Actually, it may have been Cheyenne Cattle Company then, but anyway, they snuck me into that bar in the back door. Went in there with my buddy, and I get in there, and of course I'm kind of scared. You know, I weigh 145 pounds, and I get in there, and I'm kind of, oh man, I got in here. This is gonna be cool. I hope I don't get thrown in jail. And all of a sudden, a buddy of mine named Stanley Robertson, he come over there and he goes, "Hey, Reid, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh man, Robert snuck me in the back door," and he had a big boy and another guy, Wesley Walls, and I can't remember the other big boy, Mark or something. He was the big guy. Well, Stanley goes, "Well, you don't want to mess with him tonight, Reid. I got my bodyguards with me." And that one big boy said, "Yeah." And I'll stomp, boop. As soon as he said I'll stomp me, I didn't take no lip, boy, and I knocked him out. Well, then Wesley, he jumps on me. And it was a pretty good fight for a while, and then I finally got on top of him, and then all of a sudden the bouncers come from every direction. Well, the bouncers get me in there again. Well, I immediately, I'm sorry. You know, I thought I was going to jail for life, and so I throw my hands up. Well, Wesley, he keeps fighting them. Well, it takes all them. They jump on Wesley. Well, Clay took his old cool exit to the side. So I run over there to Robert, and I said, "Robert, we got to get the hell out of here." He goes, "Why?" I said, "I just got in a fight with two guys over there." And he goes, we swapped hats and around. He said, "They won't even notice you." So I was sitting there, and I'm still paranoid, and all of a sudden one of the bouncers come over there, and he's an off-duty deputy, Archer County deputy, and but he's moonlighting as a bouncer. He comes over and he goes, "Hey, you want to start that over?" And I said, "No, sir." I said, I was in it, but they started it. And he goes, "Well, you need to get out of here." I said, "Yes, sir." So I start walking out. No problem. All of a sudden, he hits me in the back on my spine with that mag light, and I turned around and I said, "Listen here, buddy." So I'm leaving on my own accord, and I don't want no trouble. If you hit me with that flashlight again, we're going to have trouble. He goes, "You just get out that door." I said, "Yeah," and I started walking out the door. Well, about that time, he hit me with that mag light again on my spine, and I turned around, went pop, 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 hit him 3 times. He get up there, and I throw my hands up. I said, "Listen, boys, I'm trying to leave. Y'all see, I am trying to leave." Well, then he jumps up, and he's going to do some kung fu crap on me. Whoa! And then he goes to kick me with a flying kick. Well, hell, I catch his daggone deal and foot sweep that other foot, knock him down. I go whopping on him a little harder. Finally get him knocked out. And I said, "Y'all see me, I'm trying to leave." And so I go outside and go out there, and, well, Robert, he don't even give two. He's still cocking on these 2 girls and says, "Don't worry about the work." So I'm wanting to leave. And then all of a sudden I look over there, and coming out the door of Stetson's is this big mob of people, and this big giant cowboy with a Oak Ridge Boys beard, Grizzly Adams beard, about 6'5", and the one guy goes, "There he is, Tracy." And I go, "Oh crap, we got to go, boys." We didn't want to just run, you know, because we had 2 girls watching us. So, but we had a pretty cool fast walk going, and we're going to get around to our pickup. Well, finally the owner hollers at me, he goes, "Hey!" And I said, "What?" He goes, "Don't you be coming to my mama." He starts telling me, "Don't come in." I said, "Listen," I said, "I didn't want no trouble in there." He said, "I can't help you. Your bouncers, a bunch of sissies." And I said, "They kept trying to jump on me." And I said, "Y'all leave me alone. I'm trying to leave." Well, then I turned there, go to my pickup, and I hear him behind me, "Whip his, Tracy, whip his." And he hollers at me, "Hey, won't you mess with somebody your own size?" Well, I'm 16 years old, weigh 145 pounds, and this gorilla, I said, "Listen here, buddy." I said, "Everybody in there was bigger than me, and I'm going to whip your ass just like I whooped their ass if you don't leave me alone." I said, "I'm trying to leave." And he come to me, well, I hit him with an overhand right, and it looked like he shot him with a buffalo gun. He hit the ground. Well, then I went ahead and give him a little bit more while he was out cold. That way he remembered it. And I'm just slapping his ass. Well, some cowboy kicked me in the head, and I had to chase him around the pickup, catch his, whoop his. And then that old Mark Malone, the owner, goes, "Just get in your car and leave." And I said, "Dude, I've been trying to leave this place for 45 minutes. Y'all keep lining up trying to kill me." And well, I left. But the funny part of this story, that was on Saturday night. Well, on Wednesday, I go out with my dad's. He had some bottle calves I needed to feed. So I go out there, and I'm feeding them calves with my stepmom's brothers out there. And he says, "God dang, you should have been at the bar Saturday night." And I said, "Why?" He said, there was a professional boxer come up from Fort Worth and whooped everybody. And I said, no kidding. He goes, yeah, I got a buddy named Tracy. It's a bad son. I said, Tracy, big old black-headed son of a gun with a grizzly ass wrist? He goes, yeah, that wasn't no professional boxer. That was me. And he goes, you wait till I see that son of a gun. He told me it was some big old. I said, you wait till I tell him it was my 16-year-old nephew that whooped his. And, but yeah,
That's funny.
I fought a lot. I could go all day on my bachelor party. I used to work. Remember the movie Texasville?
No.
And, well, they had the little Last Picture Show. It was a remake of the Last Picture Show.
Yeah.
Well, I worked for that movie, and they had a crew party at Stetson. So we go over there, and of course they had Sybil Shepherd there, and Sybil is the biggest bee that you could ever see. I mean, this song got nobody. She had a bouncer or a bodyguard that when we did the rodeo scene, he had to carry fly strips and hold them around her so the flies wouldn't get on her. But she didn't associate with none of us. Now, Jeff Bridges and Annie Potts and Timothy Bottoms, man, we had some fun. But we all went to this deal, and it was, of course, it's a PR stunt, crew party at the deal, so they got cameras, all that. Well, they bet me, he said, hey, I bet you want to dance with old Sybil Shepherd. Of course, that's the only time she'd even come out of her trailer because the cameras were on, the local station. So I went up there, and this is where I made my mistake. I ordered 5 peach schnapps and 5 sex on the beach. And I went, wop, 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 wop. And I drank all 10 of them song guns, and that gave me enough courage to go ask her. So I went and asked her. And to my surprise, she said yes. So I went over there, and I danced with her, and it was a short song. We got done. Well, by the time that daggum song was over, that's when all that alcohol hit me, and somebody stole my legs. I went, oh, dang. And I wound up trying to order another drink, and the bartender said, no, you're cut off. And I called her a bad word, and I seen her push that bouncer button. I knew what the bouncer button was, so I said, I got to go. So I started heading out the door, and these 3 bouncers, they caught up to me at the door, and I was leaving. Again, didn't want no trouble, and all of a sudden that one old boy, Dean, he shoves me. And I turned around, and I said, boy, you shove me again, I'll rip your goddamn arm off, and I'll beat you with it. He goes, oh, you ain't going to. Boy, I hit him, and I put him to sleep. Well, the other 2 boys, they're too big. They couldn't hardly fight me because they were inside the door. So I'm just teeing off on them, tat, 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 tat. And I should have stayed there teeing off of them. But then 2 more showed up, and I thought, well, it's about time to get going. So I turned around, and I was going to run. Well, there's 2 little old steps, and I took a bad step off that first one, and I fell. And that's when they clocked me with that daggum mag light over top of my head and kind of rattled me, took all the fight out of me, and they all jumped up on top of me and got me down, handcuffed me, and that one old boy's got his boot on my face like this, and he's squishing it like a bug. It ripped all the hide off the right side of my face. Well, anyway, old Dean wakes up, and he comes over, and he gets down in my face. He goes, hey, like that, cowboy? Hey, like that, cowboy? And I looked up with that boot on my face. I said, I like that shiner you're going to have in the morning. I split his old eye wide open, and that was the wrong thing to do because they had me cuffed, and he dropped his big on my daggum rib cage and broke all the ribs on my left side, and now all the fight is gone. And but then I got thinking, we were having my bachelor party at this daggum deal, and I said, where's all my buddies at?
Yeah.
Well, my brother's in there, and they said, hey, Lance, your brother's getting his kicked out in the parking lot. And he goes, what? And so he runs out there. Well, he goes kicking them, trying to get them. They ain't getting off mine. They give to. I said, Lance, leave. And he goes, I'm going to get them. I said, listen, somebody's going to have to get me out of jail in 4 hours. He said, get the hell out of here. So I'm fine. And he left, and he finally come got me out of jail. But I got good wedding presents. That was on my first wife. That was what we call a practice wife. First one's just practice.
Gotcha.
But now we can go all day on war stories. But yeah, I was until November 8, 1991. November 8, 1991, I whooped a guy, and he invited me over there. He's going to whoop me, and he pulled a gun on me, and it got bad, and I blacked out. And when I woke up, his head was in a pool of blood that daggum big around, and he was in ICU, and I chewed on his face a little bit, and yeah, it was pretty bad. And matter of fact, I was in jail for attempted murder there for a little while, and they finally dropped her down. A plea bargain got it down to aggravated assault, and did deferred adjudication. Did my time. But I guarantee you, after that, I think I've been in 3 fights since November 8, 1991. I guarantee you got to beat on me for a minute before I'll even defend myself, because it turns out I like daylight. Those 2 months I stayed in that county jail. But I can tell you this, I bet something that never happened. While I'm in jail for attempted murder there for a while, the sheriff comes back here and he said, Clay, you ever thought about a career in law enforcement? And I said, PL, because I knew him. I said, PL, you don't take guys out of jail and make them run to jail. And he said, sometimes they make the best kind. And he actually sponsored me to go through the criminal justice deal over there to get my peace officer's license. And I had to get a GED, so I got my GED. And the day I was supposed to take my entrance exam to get into that deal, I'm playing football underneath the streetlight on Sunday night. Felt like a champ. An hour later, I had 104 temperature. And I got up to go to work that next morning. I lived with these 2 girls and my brother at that time. And the girls actually saved my life, because at 6 o'clock I got up and go to work. I don't remember nothing because I was fevered out. And I run my car through a fence across the road trying to leave. And the girls took me to the hospital. And I didn't wake up for 4 days. And when I woke up, everybody, it looked like they were in hazmat suits, quarantine. They got me quarantined. I'm going, what in the hell am I got myself into? And what's funny is they had the TV on. It was on the CBS News, and it said, Jim Henson, the Muppet Man, dies of this toxic strep. And so, man, that's bad. And I'll be dang if the doctor comes in and tells me I got toxic strep. The same thing that just killed the Muppet Man. It's a pneumonia that gets, a real rare pneumonia that gets in your lungs, but it releases a poison in there. And if you don't get it treated within the first 12 hours, you got an 82% mortality rate. It kills you dead, because everybody thinks they just got the flu and they kind of let it go, just exactly what Jim Henson did. And them girls taking me to the hospital probably saved my life. But I didn't get to take my peace officer's license. And next thing you know, I'm slinging a spinning chain in the oil field.
Dang.
Yeah. But now I fought. I remember one time there for 6 months straight, I fought every Friday, Saturday night. Yeah.
Wow.
And usually multiples. Yeah. One day they come out and they said, I was sitting at 7-Eleven on Kemp Street again. This Bronco pulled up there and there's 4 guys in it. One guy hollers something bad at me. Of course, like I say, I did not take no lip. And I took my boots off, because I'd learned by this time, don't fight in your boots because you slip. And so I took my boot off and I got it over there and I said, what'd you say to me? And that one boy was hanging out the door. He goes, what are you going to do? Whoop me with your boot? And I turned and I threw that boot back to the 7-Eleven parking lot. Pop! And I put him to sleep. Well, then the other 3 guys started fighting me through the window, and I'm pop, 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 pop. And this is right where everybody turns, the loop. The heaviest traffic there is. Well, they finally got smart and they come out and got in the middle of underneath the red light, and I knocked the next guy out, and then the other 2, I'm whooping the dog out of them, and my buddy comes out with the beer going, what in the hell are we doing here? And then cops started coming in from every direction, so we got in and picked up my haul. Well, then we run into my brother. He says, hey, he said, they kicked us out of the KA house, some fraternity house or whatever, and I said, ain't nobody kicking my brother out of no house. Let's go. And so we leave. Well, I don't know where the KA house is. And my brother leaves. He's with another buddy of mine, Gary. Well, they wind up leaving us. And, well, I don't know where the KA house is. But we wind up seeing there was another fist fight in the McDonald's parking lot. So we pulled in there to watch it. And these Alney boys is over there. And they said, and I said, good job. They wind up whooping. I said, hey, y'all want to go with us? I said, we're fixing to go beat the lips out of everybody at the KA house. And he said, oh, yeah, let's go. So we head out, and we go to 9th Street, where I knew all them KA, or them fraternity houses was. So I get down there, and we pull into that first KA yard, do a donut, and I jump out, and I kick the door in. ain't nobody home. Must be the wrong one. So we drive down the road a little ways, and we find this fraternity house, and they are a bunch of people. There's people everywhere. They're having a huge party. It ain't the KA house. It's a Sigma Nu house. But I didn't know no better. I come up in that yard, and I said, hey, which one of you sons of guns to kick my brother out of this house? Because I'm fixing to whoop every one of y'all until I find out who did it. And, of course, everybody's like, what? And then here comes Genghis Khan. This big old giant son of a gun comes walking out of that son of a gun. I went, oh, Lord Jesus. And so I run to him, and I hit him about 5 times as hard as I can. He didn't even flinch. And I go, we're in trouble. And all of a sudden, old King Kong grabbed a hold of me, took me down. He's whooping the dog. Sitting on my chest, going, whop, 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 whop. Well, I reach up there, and I figure I'd try to bite his ear off, take a little fight of him, but he's wiggling, and I can't, and he keeps wiggling. I've got a hold of him by his hair, and I finally grab a hold of his chin, and I bite his chin off, and it was about size of $50, and I guarantee you, when you bite a man's chin off, the fight leaves him. I whooped the dog out of him after that, and so I finally, of course, he's bleeding all over me, and I go to whooping. And somebody said, the cops are here, run. So we all run. I still had that piece of chin in my damn mouth. And and he had a goatee, so it had a little hair on it, and it was about the size of deal. So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So I stuck it in my snuff can, and I kept it. And so I had that chin. And so when I got home, I put it in alcohol. And all the kids in Holiday, Texas used to come over and pay me $1 to look at my chin. And you know what was weird? The hair never quit growing on that daggum chin in that alcohol. It was the weirdest damn thing ever. But I kept it 7 years. That was a money-making son of a gun for me. And years later, this is funny, years later, my wife was going to do nursing school. And they're eating lunch over there at Century City where the VRJC was. And anyway, one girl says, I'm married to and then Kelly goes, I'm married to Clay Reid. Y'all know Clay Reid. And all of a sudden, some guy taps her on the shoulder from behind. He goes, excuse me, ma'am, did I hear you say you was married to Clay Reid? She goes, yeah, do you know him? He goes, yeah. You see this scar on my chin? He said, they had to skin graft my meat off of my to put that on it. She goes, I know the story. Well, believe it was true.
She should have taken him the chin from the alcohol. I thought that's how it was going to end.
We lost it long ago.
Oh, okay. I thought that's how that was going to end. They put it back on 7 years later.
Yeah. No, I don't ever remember. I know I had it for like 7 years and kept it for a long time, but there was a lot of moves and divorces.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with a spare chin whenever you move.
Exactly.
And like, it's one of the last things that you load in the U-Haul, and before you know it, like, where'd they put that extra chin I had around here?
And you know, it's so small. I mean, it's easy to get off.
Chins are easy to lose. That's what I've heard, at least.
I miss that chin.
I've only had to keep up with my own, you know.
That was a money-making deal.
Yeah.
Makes me want to go do it again.
Yeah, chin music.
Almost. Yeah, chin music, exactly.
Yeah. So, what role did cowboying have in your life?
Well, see, my dad was a cattle buyer. So, you know, I was a sale barn junkie when I was growing up. Of course, my dad wasn't ever around pretty much. I think I only lived with my dad maybe 2 years, and that was right before the homeless deal. But he was gone, and but occasionally he would come during the summer. He'd come pick me up, and we'd go to the sale barn. And matter of fact, we had a route. Thursdays we went to Vernon Sale Barn. Wednesday was Wichita Falls, back over there when it was by Shepherd, and then you had Albany on Tuesday. But you know, so that was my deal. I was a sale barn junkie, but as far as cowboying, I wasn't no cowboy. I was just sale barn hand. But then when I got divorced from my first wife, the practice wife, all I got out of the divorce was a pickup and my tent, and she repoed the pickup. I was building spurs, and we went up there to the parts store, and me and Sam Brisby, who built spurs, and I was helping him, he'd come out and he goes, ain't that your pickup? I said, yep, got the bullet holes in there. There's 7 bullet holes down the side. And he goes, I said, yep. He goes, and what she had done, she had forged my name on a note, and she worked for the loan company that she did, so she repoed my pickup, but I never let her see me sweat. I just kept on. I had old Susie. I had a little old 2-year-old filly coat that I rode around town, and happy as a lark. But that's when I decided I said, I was working in the oil field, and that just wasn't my deal. And then all my buddies is cowboying, so I said, hey, I ain't doing nothing else but cowboying. So I sit out.
How old were you then?
Oh, I was probably 22, 21, 22, something like that. And like I say, I bought that little old Philly coat and lived down there. And I'd sit out there and I'd rope a bucket, rope a bucket, rope a bucket, rope a bucket. And we played inside leg. You know what inside leg is?
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And we always played it for $1. So I went broke for 2 years till I got to where I could rope them. I got good at it. And then same with riding. I bought me a $35 saddle at the pawn shop, DeFore's Jewelry downtown. $35 saddle ain't much. They called it the Band-Aid. And I rode branch bronc rides in this son of a gun. It didn't have no cantle, didn't have no swells. It was just one little, it was a trail endurance saddle, I think is what it was. My Blevins buckles was black tape. I'd have to, every rodeo, I'd have to put some new black tape on that son of a gun. And I'd ride broncs in that son of a gun. And I mean, I fell off, got bucked off, and people started hiring me. But getting started in archery, day work, you know how the cowboy deal is pretty clannish. You got to have an end, and I didn't have that end. All they knew about me was I was a hot-tempered, fighting son of a gun. But I never messed with nobody unless they messed with me. For the most part, and you had to have cause for me to get you whooped. But so there wasn't nobody hire me. I lived down there in that tent, and how I was able to get my end, there was an old man up there named C.T. McDaniel, which later on became the judge in town. Well, he had cows out all the time over there on Iron Bridge Road, and the fence was terrible. And so in the middle of summer during the hot, I just grabbed me a bunch of baling wire, and I went over and started tying up fence in the middle of the day, hotter than hell. And then somebody told old CT, he said, CT, you got old Clay Reid out there fixing the fence with you? And he goes, what? He goes, who's Clay Reid? He said, well, he's been out there fixing fence for you for 3 days. He's got that wheat field fence just about And he come out there and he goes, what are you doing? Who told you to do it? I said, nobody. I said, I wasn't doing nothing. I figured it, and it needed it done. And he said, well, we're going to brand calves tomorrow. You want to come help us? You bet. And that's kind of how I got my deal in there. I got set with him and then helped him. But boy, I was forehand for a while now, I guarantee you. But it's kind of like when I rode bulls. I rode bulls, started riding bulls when I was 16 years old. We go over there to the projects, Ricky Kyle's in Wichita Falls, somebody said it. And I was the worst bull rider there was in the history of the world, but I loved doing it. And the last bull I remember, old Bobby Potsky, over at Blackwell's Arena at Iowa Park. And I rode 3 bulls, exhibition, because I didn't have no money, but they let me get on. And 2 out of the 3, I would have won the son of a gun. I finally rode the son of a guns when I wasn't entered it. And but that last bull, I rode, and I flopped over here, flopped over there, and I got off, and old Bob Potsky, he grabbed my bull rope, and he come over, and he goes, boy, you got more try and less talent than I know. And I said, Bobby, you're right. And then I went to clowning, and I should have been clowning the whole damn time. I was made for clowning, but by then I got married, so I didn't get to clown but one summer. And but boy, I had a good time. Yeah, I remember the first bull I fought in the rodeo was at Children's Old Settlers Reunion, and
so you're talking about bullfighter? Yeah, bullfighter. You're not talking about just telling jokes?
No. I was bullfighting.
Oh, okay.
And,
I thought you were telling jokes.
Yeah, because I had a buddy named Brandon Dunn, which Brandon, he's bullfighter. I mean, he's a clown now, and he does the show. And but he was a young man then, and we started doing it. And my buddy Scott Burgett had the stock contractor, so I just followed him around. I would bullfight to pay for my bronc riding fees. Yep. And so I get in there, and I remember the first day I was out there putting my makeup on in my old pickup, because I lived out of my pickup. And old Brandon goes, hey, Bulldog. They called me Bulldog. I said, Bulldog, no, come over here, son. We got to get our mind right. I said, oh, yeah, well, let's go. And he's got a fancy trailer. He's got them home speakers about that tall and that so. This is how we get our mind right. And he puts in AC/DC's Thunderstruck. And when that song was going to start, na 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 na, I guarantee I could have fought King Kong. I was amped up. I mean, it's just thundering. First bull comes out, Jody Mataska gets hung up. I jump on the back, and I get him unhung. The bull gets branded down, and then I go to rescue old Brandon. I come in between him, get him off of him. Well, that old Charlotte bull, he lines me out, and I was going to give him one of them inside-out moves. And, well, when I went inside, that old Sam was, all I had was AstroTurf tube cleats, a poor boy. And my foot slipped out from under me, and that bull run right over the top of me. Well, I didn't bother. I jumped up and shot my pistols off, and the crowd goes wild. And I get up, and old Brandon goes, "Bulldog, you're bleeding." I said, "Nah, I ain't bleeding. It's hot. It's July 4th rodeo." He said, "No, you're bleeding." That bull had stepped right on my face. I never even noticed it. I got a picture somewhere. Me and old Brandon standing there, and that old left side all mangled up. But I loved it. I loved it. But like I say, and then because that summer, it's funny. My wife, we dated for a while. And then I told her in May, I said, "Listen, I got one more summer underneath me." I said, "I'm going to party. I'm going to chase women all damn summer." And he says, "I'm going to do my deal and get it out of my system. If you're still around after the Pioneer reunion in September," said, "I'll marry you." Well, you know what she told me? "You kiss my ass, you so change on the..." And she left. And that was May. And that was the deal. So I did. And I partied all summer and clowned and rode ranch bronc rides, had a good time all summer. Well, then in September, I go looking for her, and go to her best friend. I said, "Hey, where's Kelly?" She says, "Oh, she moved down to De Leon. She got her new man, but he's being mean to her, da-da-da." And I said, "We ain't having that." So me and the old brown Hornet, that old beat-up Ford pickup of mine, 55 mile an hour, we drive to De Leon, Texas to go find them, and pull into Dairy Queen. And, of course, I had shaved all damn summer. So
how old are you?
Probably 22, 23. It was right before we got married. So, because I got divorced from fair practice where I jumped right in with her. And so I'm probably 23, something like that. And but I pulled in there to Dairy Queen. I said, "Hey, can I borrow a cup of hot water?" "Hey, you bet." And they give me a cup of hot water. I went out there on front of the pickup, shaved, got to look presentable. And go over there, and I said, "Can I borrow your phone?" This was way before the cell phone days. I said, "You bet." And I called Kelly. And like I say, she hadn't talked to me since May. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Who is this?" I said, "It's Clay." She says, "Where you at?" I said, "Dairy Queen." "In Archer?" I said, "No, in De Leon." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I come down here to get you. I told you I'd marry you after the Pioneer reunion." "I'll be ready in 5 minutes," she said, and I went and got her, and luckily that old boy was gone off in the oil field, loaded all of her crap up, drove all the way back to Archer City with her. She never even blinked an eye. She was ready to go. And like I say, that was 1993 when we done that, and been together ever since. And but what was funny, I'm living in a pickup, right? So I ain't got much to offer the pretty little brown-headed gal. And so we drive back, and I drop her off at her granny's. I said, "Hang on a sec, I'll go find us a house." So I drive around town, and I found this one little old yellow house. The roof had been burnt, half the roof was gone. And I went to old Sean Officer, the old boy down there. I said, "Hey, Sean, you want to rent that house down there?" He said, "What house?" I said, "That yellow house." "A yellow house?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You can live in that for free. I don't care if you clean it up." So I didn't know it, but inside he was using it as a dump. All of his household trash, it was stacked that tall in the house. So Kelly and her best friend and me, we cleaned that booger up, and it's just a one-room house, basically, and with a wood-burning stove in the middle. And so we lived there for about a month, and there was a big party one night, and she got really drunk, and I said, "Hey," I sit in there, and we were watching Johnny Carson. She's there, and I said, "Hey, you really want to get married?" "Yeah." "Okay." That was it. 3 days later, we got married, and but luckily, right after that, I got a job working for the Parkey Ranch, and we lived out there at Mankins. Matter of fact, my boss, I brokered that deal and got them to buy that old place that we lived, and that's my bunkhouse now, where all the cowboys stay, and that's where me and her first real home was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but yeah, raised 5 kids and done all right ever since.
Dang, 5 kids.
Yeah. Well, 2 of them was a practice wife, but
Yeah.
my 2 oldest but yeah, we had a pretty good life considering I was an old homeless bum, that nobody'd even hire. And, and I've been running this ranch out here for, I'd say I got back in 98, I guess since 99. So good while. And I got the greatest boss in North America and good guy. I mean, and only thing about him, he's getting old, goddamn, and so am I.
You've been out there for 25 years?
Yeah.
What ranch is it?
The Holly Ranch. Yeah, well, there's a Taylor and the Holly, which Taylor is one of the oldest ranches in Archer County, and he's the heir to, and he's executive that. And then, then when I started working there, I guess he had like 7,500 acres, but I would broker, and I'm a company. I ride for the brand. I'm loyal to the guy. This guy's been good to me, as good as any man in my lifetime has ever been good to me. And like per se, this one place come over there, and this old man had a section, good section, 100 acres, wheat, good pens, city water, highway frontage, all that. And he was having cattle getting out all the time. And he's an old man. He goes, man, I don't have no business having this place. And he said, I need to just sell it. I said, don't pop off, Wes. I said, tell me what you want for it. And he goes, really? I said, yeah, you tell it. I'll buy it right now. He said, tell me what you want. I either say yes or no. And he said, I'll take $400 an acre. I said, of course, I told him, I said, sold. He goes, just like that, just like that. I called John. I said, John, I got a place over here. Need to buy it. He goes, okay, tell me where to send the money. We got a check, send it to that guy. But I could have went to my real estate buddies or whoever, and I could have bought that son gun, and I could have sold it for $2,000 an acre the next day. But that's not how I operate. I'm a company man. I'm not about money. I'm all about happiness. I'm all about doing right by guy. So I did that. That was the first part. And then we did the same on 6,000 acres. I did a deal on that at the golf course with the owner of that. Later on, the other 3,000. And then where the bunkhouse is, well, when I worked there, that was the only job I ever got fired from. I worked for a man out there, and the owner come out there on Monday and give me a $200 a month raise and told me what a great job I was doing. Well, on Thursday, the manager fired me because I guess he felt threatened or whatever, but he had no call to fire me, boy, and I took offense to it. So I had to go to New Mexico and work out there in Tucumcari, New Mexico for a year. And but when I come back and I got with John, I was in good standing with the owner, so I'd call him about once or twice a year. I'd say, hey, George, you ready to get rid of that place? No. And then finally one night he called me at 3 a.m. in the morning and said, hey, y'all still interested in buying it? You dang right. And he goes, well, I tell you what. And he told me what he wanted. I said, we'll take it, $700 an acre. And they sold 5,000 acres. And he goes, well, I'll tell you, so-and-so, the guy that fired me, got a lot of good years in him. I said, George, I got motive in wanting to buy this place. I said, when he fired me in 1996, he said he had no call to it, so I'm going to take special enjoyment in running his off. And he said, in fact, where's the deal? I said, I understand. He goes, no, sir, money's money. I said, all right. So I got to run his off out of the place he run me off. Hey. Karma done bit him in. And so we bought that 5. Now we got about 28,000 acres up there.
Where's that?
It's, you know where Lake Kickapoo is?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, right. Well, from the backside of Lake Kickapoo all the way to north of Holiday, you don't have to get off the ranch. Up northern Archer County.
You bet.
Yeah, and good ranch. And and then
for the most part, contiguous?
Yeah, all contiguous other than crossing the road.
You bet.
Yeah, and that was kind of the deal we liked. Picking in places that joined us. You bet. There's been other places we could have bought, but they didn't join us. Was kind of unhandy. And we got a little place over at Owl Park too, 300 acres. But yeah, most of it contiguous. And then I bought the last part of that O'Donoghue Ranch, which had that big old house in it. And my boss, it was dilapidated. Big old nice house, old house, built in 49, but it was just, terrible. And but looked like a bunch of homeless people had lived in it, graffiti and all that. But he redid that whole house for me. We painted it and we got it and they rewired it and all that. And that's where I live, which is great because it's a big old house and it's long. And my wife lives on the east side, and I live on the west side. I'm west side hood, because I like my side of the house where you can hang meat in it, and she likes it hot, and I like TV on and the fan on, and of course she's OCD clean, and I'm the exact opposite. You walk into my place, it looks like a bachelor pad. I've got every hunting deal and ropes and spurs and junk hanging everywhere.
Yeah.
And, I don't throw nothing away. And so it drives her crazy, but it works good. Somebody said something about sleeping with your wife. I said, I ain't slept with my wife for 15 years. And I said, well, we meet in the middle for conjugal visits occasionally, but we get along a lot better that way.
I bet so. That's what I heard the secret to marriage is separate bathrooms.
Yeah, dang right. That is the truth.
Dang, 26 years on the same place. 25, I mean.
Yeah, that don't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And I've lost a lot of hide out there, but not nearly as much as that place I worked on out there in New Mexico. That place out there, the Trig, it's a bad cat.
You said you liked hunting. You do a lot of hunting.
Yeah, I'm a coyote hunter. Yeah.
Okay.
I go. I've been. Oh, I guess when I got back from New Mexico, which I've coyote hunted all my whole life. My dad used to have greyhounds when we were little, and he had 32 of them. And I remember my mom shooting 28 one night with a 22 Magnum off a dead pit, because back then you got $2 for a set of ears.
Mm-hmm.
Well, gas was 35 cents. That paid the bills. And I think I was like 7 years old then. But then they come up, and I got back in 97. That buddy of mine said, hey, you want to get in a coyote contest? And I said, they got a coyote contest? They said, oh, yeah. And I love to compete. I mean, I play football, play baseball, I box. I love to compete. And, when they said that there was a prize at the end of it, I had one rifle at that time. Now I got a herd of rifles, and I've got callers, and I've been with Fox Pro calls for probably 15 years. Well, maybe longer, since 20 years, I guess, since 04. I've been with Fox Pro and on their field staff, and I've won the Texas State Championship 3 times. I've won the New Mexico State Championship, the Arizona State Championship, and Nevada, and that's where I just got back from, was Wyoming up there in Rawlins, trying to win the Nationals and State Championship up there, but we did get our ass kicked, but snow blowed us out. But that's where I like to do. I like to compete in that deal, and and been pretty good at it too. And then, but I just, matter of fact, here, 2022, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed either. I'm sitting on my couch on December 31st, and I've always got to have. I'm task driven. I've got to have to do something that's, because I don't sleep. And 2022 made me appreciate sleep, because I decided on that couch I was going to try to kill a coyote every day for a year. So every day for a year, I had to kill a coyote. Now, that don't sound like no big deal, but it just happened to coincide with one of the driest years and the worst weather years on record at my ranch. I mean, we had cattle. I was dragging cows out of tanks everywhere. All the tanks were dry. I mean, it was terrible. The wind started blowing in February, didn't quit blowing until July. And I mean, blowing. And then we had snow, and we had 67 days of triple-digit heat that summer. And, coyotes don't move when it's 115 daggum degrees, so I would have to go out at night. As soon as it got dark, I'd work all damn day. As soon as it got dark, which it didn't get dark, in the summer till 9, so I'd have to leave, and I got 3 hours, and I'd have to walk and spot and stalk with thermal. I had thermal, and I'd walk. One night I walked 6.5 miles, finally found a coyote right before midnight, and got him shot. Well, then I got to walk 6.5 miles back to the pickup. And then, it wore my butt smooth out. And I mean, which I'm going to write a book about that whole deal. And because some of the dumbest stuff, the incidents. But I can tell you this, but it's also good because, I've hunted coyotes my whole life, but I learned a lot by coyote behavior more in that year using thermal, because that was my introduction to thermal, because you can see what goes on where you usually don't. I watch, we know coyotes get her calves and sick cattle, and all that. But I had a bunch of big, stout, brangish cows on this one wheat field. And I was walking on there, and I could see this one cow was in distress. I was running her around. So I started walking to her, and the closer I got, I could see 7 coyotes were working her like a caribou, wolves do a caribou in Alaska, in and out in this son of a gun. And if I wouldn't have been there, they'd have got that cow down. They had her down. And I wind up killing 3 and run them all off. And but that told me, some of these cows that are dying just out of the blue, there's pretty good chance the coyotes is getting them. I've seen 37 in one bunch out there on one of them wheat fields at night. God, and 37 coyotes can get a lot of stuff. Well, it's funny, a week later, Lonnie Berger, I go over there, and Lonnie's got 30 cows right there west of his house on a little coastal field. And I was telling him this story, and he goes, well, I wonder if that's what got my cow. He said, I fed a cow last night. Every one of them were all just fine. Next morning, I come out there, and there's 7 coyotes on her, eating her. And I said, I guarantee you that's what happened. He said, well, come out there and help me out. And I said, all right. So I go out there, and there's a willow tree, and I sit there. As soon as it got dark, here come 13 coyotes out that son of a gun. And I wind up killing 29 coyotes off of that one spot in about 2 weeks, till I figured out that Lonnie's got one night I went out there, and I was quiet, and I sneaked it out there, put it out there in that field, and I walked back over Dills, and all of a sudden I heard a whoop, whoop. That ain't no goddamn coyote. I was like, what? I had forgot about it. He's got 5 of them Great Pyrenees dogs, and they're mean. They don't play around. One of the deer hunters had to call 911 because they wouldn't let him get out of his deal. So I never turned that collar on. I went to pick that booger up, and I got to the pickup before they ate me. And I told him, if I ain't coming back till you put them dogs up. But, it's but 29 at that one place. Up there at that, we got a little preconditioning yard there at Mankin. And I killed 189 there. Killed 52 at James's, Mitchell's feed yard. I wound up killing 430 coyotes that year. And I only had four days I didn't get a dog. And three of them was gun related. I had my gun screwed up, got off a deal, and one night is the only reason I never found a coyote. But,
what percentage of them were at night?
Oh, I ain't done all the math on it, but I guarantee you it's probably 80% of them.
Did you see anything else crazy when you're out there? Because that's a lot of time out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's see. I'll try and think craziest. Well, I wished I had a record on one. I seen a girl and a guy. Yeah, they were having a good time. Let's just say that. Yeah, I pulled up there and they were at my gate. And then,
on thermals?
Oh, yeah. Well, I walked into the gate and they were over there, and I said, well, and I knew them. And I knew the girl. And we talked. And I said, well, I got to get my car. So I pull in the gate. And then I'm sitting there, and they didn't leave. And all of a sudden, I walk around the deal. I turn my scanner on. I turn on. Oh, okay, that's why they didn't leave. Yeah, they were having a good time. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So, I wished I'd had that. I know how to record off my thermal now. I wished I would have known it then. I'd had Blackmail City on that. So, yeah. But, no, I had the coyote try to eat me one night over at Doug Strange's place. I had 3 coyotes coming across the wheat field, and I put myself up into a little mesquite tree about yay tall, kind of hide my silhouette. Well, then I'm sitting there watching these, and all of a sudden I hear this. I scanned to my right, and I went, oh, crap, there's a coyote there, and I shot him. I said, all right, now I got back on these. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard this. I turned back over this coyote, and there's another coyote eating this son, throwing him up in the air, just like he's fighting him. And I go, oh, crap. So I'm fixing to shoot him. My thermal goes dead. So I drop it down. I'm trying to put my little batteries in my thermal, and I'm done. And then I finally get it in. I look. Well, he's gone. So I go back to these 3 that are kind of messing around. And then all of a sudden I could hear that son of a gun come running behind me. And that fucker come at me trying to get back me. And the only reason I think he did is because I was using coyote vocals. You know, I was using the coyote fight sign. Here come that coyote, and he's down there trying to chew my feet up, and I'm going, and luckily that mesquite tree's in between is what saved me. Hi, and it's pitch black. I can't see a damn thing. All I can hear, got me, so get off me, got me. That ended my night. I quit. It scared me out. But now they, and then one night I go to, that was in January, we had a snowstorm come up there, and over at James's deal, they got a dead pit. And they got, and on the backside of that lagoon is pretty steep. It's probably about 15, 20 feet high. And that snow's drifting off the back of it. But the wind's just perfect, so I can come in. That dead pile's on the north of it. I'd crawl up there, and then I'd fall down in that goddamn snow. And I mean, I'd fall down so hard it looked like one of them Bugs Bunny abominable snowman, you know, where the ball in your leg. And I'd fall, did that about 3 times. And I'm ready to go home because the wind's blowing about 30 miles an hour. The snow's about 6 inches deep. And as I'm sitting there on the bottom of that deal, and I'm pouting, trying to get strength to go back up and try for the 4th time. And I thought, well, I'll look. I looked around. Over there about 40 yards from the coyote. He watched me the whole time. So I said, boom, I killed him, and I went to the house. Yeah. And then one time during the daytime, because, you know, the fatigue factor, you know, you get in a hurry, you want to see, you know, I'm averaging about 2 hours of sleep a day. And I mean, every day. That's about it. I mean, it was taxing. And, well, one day right before dark, I happened to get off early, and I wanted to get some sleep. I am wore out, so I hustled. I walked a half mile into this thick brush, and there's a salt scald, you know, open place, and I put that collar down. I turned to walk over there to the brush where I'm going, and there's a coyote sitting there 25 yards from me, just like an old town dog. What are you doing? What are you doing with that collar? And I go, oh, crap. So I take my gun off of my dadgum back, and I pick. Oh, crap, I ain't got a bullet in there. So I come back, and I go to put a bullet in there. Click. I don't even have a bullet in my whole damn gun. Don't even have one in my pocket. I ain't got no bullets with me. Left all my bullets at the damn deal. So I stomped. I'm cussing. That guy was still standing there. I said, you better go, you stupid son. I grabbed my collar, and I walked a half mile pickup, and that dog followed me just like he was an old town dog all the way there. I said, you keep walking. Keep following me, son. When I get to that pickup, it's over. I'm talking to him. And he just, you ain't getting nothing, boy. And I'll be damned if I get over and load that deal, and I don't never see him again. It took me till 11:30 to get a coyote that night.
Dang.
Oh, it was brutal. But
Did you ever have any experience with other stuff outside of a coyote?
We called up the Bigfoot one night, but that wasn't during that deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we was over at Beaver Creek, and that, I got to tell another story that goes with this. But this is back.
I was thinking like a mountain lion, but yeah, let's hear the Bigfoot story.
We've called the mountain lion, but we had, back when Graham was really big, back in the day, Graham, Texas, that hunt was the biggest in the nation. 150 teams. Me and my 2 buddies, Wayne Hutchinson, football coach for Stanford, and Mitch Maxmore, the football coach for Haskell right now. We were hunting, and we went over there, got a place called the Guide Mound Ranch. I don't know if you know Trey Mobley, but Trey Mobley runs that ranch now. And, well, anyway, there's a Beaver Creek runs down through, and it is just solid briars and brush. You got to get off and walk. And you can barely walk through it to get cattle at it. And it runs along that deal, and there's a little old 30-acre wheat field on it, right? Guaranteed bobcat. So we pull in there at 4 a.m. in the morning, ain't a breath of air. Sit there, and all of a sudden, sure enough, come in there, Hutch, he shoots that bobcat. I go out there to get it. I reach out and grab that bobcat, and they say, well, how big is he? I ain't real big, but he's 50 points, which is what they were in that content. He's 50 points, all I know. And all of a sudden, you hear like something ripping a branch off of a tree, and like a big and it breaks. And I look up there at my buddies, I said, what was that? And old Mitch goes, I don't know, it sounded like a branch being ripped off a tree. Well, I hightailed it back to that pickup, and I get back to pickup. And every time I would blow my call, it would hit that branch up against the tree. Pow! Pow! And we did that about 4 or 5 times. I said, I don't know what it is, but let's get out of here. And so I leave, and of course, we tell everybody jokes about it and all that. Well, when I get home that night, back then, you had everybody, you didn't have social media, you had them little forums, hunting forums, the Texas Predator Posse. And I get on there and I said, boys, y'all ain't true caller until you can call up to Bigfoot. We called up to Bigfoot last night and I told the story and all that. Well, then all of a sudden, this guy named John Dickey, he sends me a personal message and says, hey, I want you to, I'm going to send you these sound files. I want you to listen to them and holler back. I'm the head of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center. And he said, that's a classic tree knock. And he said, that's to warn you out of their area. And I said, well, it worked because we got out of Dodge. we vacated the premises. We took it as an alarm too. And anyway, I listened. There were 12 different recordings from all over the country. And it was exactly what we had heard that night. And and it got better because the next morning we used to go to Canaan Corner to this cafe there. Everybody, all the cowboys, all the old field guys, every morning, 4:30, I was sitting there. Well, I was telling everybody the story, and they said, yeah, I'm a Bigfoot calling up some gun by guy, and everybody laughed, kidding. And all of a sudden, everybody left. Well, I'm still eating. This other boy, Pumper, he pumps that lease out there where we was. And he don't ever say two words. But all of a sudden, he goes, I seen that Bigfoot. And I said, what? He said, yeah, I seen that Bigfoot in 1992 and 1976. I said, oh, bull. He said, where? He said, you know that pump jack coming off that hill right before you get to that wheat field? I said, yeah. He said, I pulled down there in 1992 at 8 a.m. and that sucker walked right across the road in front of me, stood 50 yards in front of me, looked at me, and then walked off down into Beaver Creek. And he said, in 1976, I seen him by Lake Diversion. He was walking across that open country by the concrete bridge. Oh, come on now. You believe me if you want to. He went back to eating his egg. And I went, I'll be dang. But what's weird is after I have told this story, everybody thinks I'm a anyway, so I don't give a dang. But people have called me and messaged me with their encounters of this deal. And I mean, some of them are pretty well. Well, matter of fact, I filmed a hunting show one time, a big hunting show, nationwide hunting show. And the host of that deal, and I won't mention his name because I don't know if he wants it told, but I was telling him this story when we were filming, and I could tell he was listening very intently. And then when I got done, he said, I'm going to tell you something I ain't told nobody in 17 years. Because he's a world champion elk caller and elk hunter. He guides up in Grand Junction, Colorado. He said, 17 years ago, me, 4 guides, and 8 clients were 37 miles back in the Colorado mountains, headed to elk camp. Got all of our mules coming everything up there. And he said, we come to a little clearing. That sucker walked across the clearing right in front of us, to all 13 of us. And he said, not one of us ever said a word about it. And he said, I've never told anybody until this moment right here. And he said, because I knew everybody would think I was crazy. And I thought, I'll be there. But then, like I say, next thing you know, I got a buddy of mine at Cowboys up in the Panhandle, up in Canadian, Texas. There was 5 of them. They were trying to push.
Who's that?
I can't tell his name. He
don't. Okay, that's fine.
He don't want. Like I say, nobody wants to tell their name because they don't want to be called a.
Yeah.
Me, I don't care. But there was 5 of them, and they were all going, and I know all 5 of them to be credible. And they were trying to move yearlings across the Canadian River, and they couldn't get them across. And they moved them across that son gun 1,000 times. And then so they finally said with it, and their horses wore out because they're running over the back of them. They go down there, and that sucker's down there on his hands and knees getting a drink out of the Canadian River.
Dang.
They swear by. But here's the funny story I was going to tell you about. I had a guy call me 6 months ago and tell me his experience. He's got his buddy, he wasn't actually there, but his buddy runs an outfitter's deal. I guess it was probably last winter because it was during deer season. And so it had to been last winter. But anyway, they've got, like, they put them deer hunters in stand 1, stand 2, stand 4, and his buddy's job was to take them out. So they take them out, and they drop old Bob. I don't know if Bob's his real name, but I can't remember. But he dropped old Bob off in the first stand. They were headed to the next stand. Well, they were just getting the next guy out, and all of a sudden they heard pow, 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 pow. 5 shots, fast as he could shoot them. And he's like, God dang, what's Bob shooting? It's 4:30 in the morning. He can't be shooting in nothing. It's pitch black dark. So they haul up back down there to go check on Bob. Well, they don't have to check on Bob because Bob is running down the road coming to them fast as he can. And he goes, what happened? What happened? He goes, I just shot Bigfoot. And they said, what? He goes, I just shot Bigfoot. I was sitting in that stand. I was sitting in that stand, and I was Facebooking, and the son of a gun reached through the window and grabbed my phone and took off with it. And he said, I just shot 5 times through the stand. And they said, what? He goes, well, let's go check. And he goes, no. Take me back to the lodge. And they could tell he was shaking with fear. He said, take me back to the lodge. And he goes, all right, well, we'll go back to the lodge. And when it gets daylight, he said, we'll wait on daylight. He says, you can wait on the Marine Corps to get here. I'm not going back in them woods ever again. And they all started laughing over there. But they could tell he was freaking out. So when it got daylight, him and them other 3 guys, they go over there and check. Sure enough, they get to the daggum blind. There's 5 holes in the side of it and a big old pool of blood right outside the deal. And they go, what the? So now they're getting a little goosebumpy. And so they start blood trailing old Bigfoot through the deal, and they get about 600 yards over there. And there's old Bigfoot laying on the ground with the damn phone still in his hand, and it's a goddamn 400-pound silverback gorilla. He's like, what the? Where does a goddamn gorilla come out of nowhere? And so they load him up, and they take him into the town, whatever town it was in East Texas, which is, Piney Woods and all that. And they tell the sheriff, and they say, boy, I'm glad y'all found him. He escaped out of there and camped about 60 miles up here. They've been looking. Why wouldn't you tell? Well, we didn't want to scare the public, all that. He said, well, you scared the public, all right. He said, well, they thought if they told everybody, everybody would be shooting at every noise. And he said, but old Bob still won't go in the woods. It affect him. He'll never go back in the woods again.
Golly.
Could you imagine? You're sitting there
in a deer stand and
checking out old Dale Brisby, and all of a sudden, whoop!
A gorilla take your dang phone. Golly.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of them too.
I wonder who he was trying to call, why he needed that phone.
Yeah. No
That's
kidding.
wild that he still had it in his hand.
He's trying to find direction back to that end camp. These people out here are tough. They'll shoot you. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But no, like I say, I've been caught in a long time. And yeah.
I was just thinking being out in the night every night, if 80% of them were in the night, I was thinking you might have come across like a mountain lion or something. I wasn't expecting.
Well, I've called up mountain lions before, but I had a buddy of mine get it. They got his, we don't have a whole lot of them, but I've seen them 5 or 6 times out there, mainly during the daytime. But one night, over at Lake Kickapoo, they got one of my buddy's dogs on Monday. And I said, well, Joe, if you see him, let me know, and I'll come up, because I got all the country west of it, his house. And sure enough, 5:30, he said he walked across the road in front of him. So me and my buddy went out there, and we got
the dog or a mountain lion?
Mountain
lion. Gotcha.
Yeah, and we got up on a ridge looking back toward Joey's house, and I screwed up. I had my gun slinged on my back, and I put the collar down. My buddy John Doyle had the light. I turned that collar on, and when I turned the collar on, John turned the spotlight on, the red light. The damn lion was down there at the bottom of the hill, 200 yards, looking up at us like, hey, what y'all doing? And when I went to I got in a hurry to get my gun off so I could shoot him before he took off. I hit my collar, and it's got a deal on it called Fox Bang, which if you hear the bang, it'll switch to a pups in distress for coyotes. And it hit that pups in distress, and the lion run off into the broom weeds and never got another shot at him.
Dadgummit.
But I can tell you this, if I ever do kill one of them boogers around here, you're going to know about it, because I've made a vow that when I do get one killed, I'm going to strip down to my underwear and my cowboy boots, and I'm going to drape that son of a gun on my shoulders with my Bowie knife, and I'm going to walk right down 79 right in the middle of Archer City with that son of a gun. I'll be strutting. Yeah. So
why is that the vow?
It
just seems like a cool thing to do.
Yeah, you got to be cool.
Your Rambo moment.
God dang right, yeah. And, you don't get to kill many lions around here.
But if you do.
I could have killed a million out there in New Mexico, but it's just, but around here, you get one called up and killed, it's something.
Yeah. Golly.
But what's crazy is the guys that kill one is usually on accident. I got an old man, he's an old war hero named John Fisher. And I didn't even know that part about him. He never talks about it, but another buddy of mine told him about he was a very decorated Vietnam guy, and he'll come hunting with me. But that son of a gun, I guess about a year or two ago since me and him hunted, but he was down at South Texas hunting fox. And a goddamn mountain lion come in, he got it shot. I kissed my, and then Jacob Byer, another guy, little cow hunt buddy, he takes his girlfriend out, going to kill fox, and he shoots a mountain lion. I'm going, dang it, my old been chasing all over America and can't get one of them buggers killed. But anyway, it's been a good deal.
What else do you hunt?
That's it.
You just like hunting coyotes?
I like hunting deer, but I'm not I got too much crackhead in me. I can't sit in those stands, Yeah, I'm chewing on my scabs in about 30 minutes. I got to be going, I got to be moving. So I like to rattle, and I finally got me. I like the mountain man kind of lure, Jeremiah Johnson, my favorite show ever, and I guarantee if it wasn't for that little brown-headed gal, I'd be gone, because I've lived out in the woods, a lot in my lifetime, but I always want. So I got me a black powder rifle last year. My buddy bought one for me that does a lot of work for me, and I got that. Of course, I didn't want to fire it because I didn't know nothing about it. I didn't want to wake up with look like Yosemite Sam with the black face blowed up. So I had him come by there, give me a tutored me on it and all this. And I was wanting to kill coyotes and a deer with it. So I took it out a windy day, and I was going to rattle. I like to rattle. So I walk out west of the house, and I get out there. I walk in amongst 5 coyotes. Oh, God, so I start getting my deal up, and I get my elbow down there. And, they leave by that time. I said, so I go walk to the next rattle. So I walk over there, and all of a sudden I walk up to a group of hogs, and they ain't, because the wind's blowing so hard, they ain't heard me, and they're about 20 yards. I said, oh, yeah, my old hawking rifle's fixing to get bloody. So I reached that booger up there, boom, and that goddamn bullet hit that hog and bounced damn near back to me. I was like, and that hog, he kind of wandered off. I said, what? And I was so daggone mad, so I go back to the house and pout, call James, hey, this goddamn 50 cal right there ain't worth fighting. He goes, well, how much powder did you put in? I said, 40 grains, like you told me. I was shooting a target, dude. You need like 90 grains. I was like, God dang. So I still ain't got bloody with the son of a gun. I went another time, I rattled up big 8-point, had him coming in there. Well, my cap went off, but my powder didn't. I was just like Jeremiah Johnson in the first few scenes where he's starving to death.
Yep.
Yeah, old Pilgrim. Yeah. I am the Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I starved to death. But I'm gonna get bloody with it. But
what wild times have you had on the ranching side of your life?
Oh man, I've lost more and broke more bones. But I guess the worst I ever done is I was day working over there for Alvin Parrish, which he just died a while back. But we pulled in. We was waiting on the drive to come around. They were coming around, and we pulled up to an old tank, and it was low, but it still looked good. And Shane Wright was on the other side. I was on this side. We were talking and letting our horses water up. And then all of a sudden, that little old colt I was riding, she stepped off into that water. Well, it was just straight down boggy. It was just solid mud. So she panicked. She got out into the tank. She got parallel with the deal, and she just shivered. And I thought, well, and the dirt's right there next to me, so I'm just going to step off before she rolls with me or flips over with me and lead her out. Well, that's where I screwed up. Because when I went to get off, just as soon as I swung my leg, she jumped up and flipped over with me. And luckily, it was right at the edge of the water where it was muddy, because her ass landed right on top of me. Then she stepped on my face. I don't know if you can see that scar. It comes all the way across there. It ripped my eyelid all the way down here to my lips. It was all down here, and all this was up there, and all you could see was skull. And I had a stick stuck in this tear duct because there's a bunch of sticks laying on the side there. And so, I mean, and And when she stepped on me, I thought, because them sticks were crashing, it felt like my skull had crushed, because I could hear that crash. And then, of course, all this went dead. And, of course, then I knew but I didn't even know if my eye was in there or not. And so, God dang, old Shane, he runs over, and I'm standing on my hands and knees, and because blood's just pouring out of me. And I looked up at old Shane. I said, Shane, is my eyeball still in there? He goes, I don't know, Clay. I can't see it. I said, well, go get the truck. He goes, no, I can't leave you like this. I said, I'll be all right. I said, but I do need some medical attention. I said, go get the truck. So he hauls. He goes by old Nelson Clark. He goes, Clay's been in a bad wreck. He said, I got to go get the pickup. So Nelson come over here. Well, Nelson, he's always got a handkerchief in his pocket, older guy. He's always got that. Nelson, well, I'm looking straight at the ground so all that blood don't just roll down me. And I'm standing there, and old Nelson walks up and he goes, Pard, are you all right? I said, yeah, let me use that handkerchief. And I looked up there, and he goes, he starts throwing up. He can't take it. And I said, God dang, Nelson, that ain't a vote of confidence, son. Give me that damn handkerchief. So I got that handkerchief, and I put on it. And they come down there, and we hauled. Me and Justin Coleman and Shane Wright, we're driving to the hospital, and we hit a red light. And, of course, I'm sitting there, it looks like my eyeball's hanging out, my eyelid and everything's ripped from, all the way from here to here, all the way down to there. And damn near caused a wreck, because there was a lady and her two daughters to the right, and I happened to look at them, and when I looked at them, they run that red light and just barely missed a truck hitting a T-bone them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It freaked them out. So we get up there to the damn deal at the hospital, and they go, okay, they thought I'd been gunshot. They said, what caliber gun was you shot with? And I said, a number 2 St. Croix. And they said, what? I said, a horseshoe got me. Horse stepped on my face. And, of course, it's all mud and blood, it was right on the deal. So they go to scrubbing that son of a gun with that scrub brush and all that. And they go, golly, does that not hurt? Nah, I'm pretty tough. Hell, I didn't want to tell them. I ain't got no feeling. I still ain't got no feeling on that side of the head. But I didn't want to tell them no different. I like the allure of being tough. And she goes, well, God dang, that's killing me by doing it, because she's scrubbing. Well, then they come in there to go sew it up, and the blood's still rolling everywhere. And they go, where in the hell is all this blood? I didn't know she stepped on the back of my head, too, and I got a 11 staple hole in the back. Had put 11 staples in the back of my head. And I think it was like 164 stitches inside and out up here. And what was funny is before I'd even got back to town, word got out Clay died in a horse wreck. Yeah, he's bad. He's done. My wife is freaking. We don't have cell phones, and it got to her, and she's freaking out. And finally, she got up there, and but everybody else in town thought I was dead. Well, the next morning, back then, you used to go to the Dairy Queen every morning at 4 o'clock. And so I walked in there at 4 o'clock. My head looks like a goddamn basketball, swole up. And I got pus dragging out of the sun, got it bandaged up and all that. And everybody sat there, and they just looked at me. Nobody said a word. And I sat there, and I drank my coffee. I said, God dang, y'all off quiet this morning. Is that you, Clay? They didn't know who it was. So we heard you die. Too far from my heart to kill me. You can't kill this mean son of a gun. But yeah, it did mess me up worse than polio. Yeah. But I was day working. 2 days later, I looked like hell. But yeah, and then I out there in New Mexico, we were gathering cattle. Me and a spur maker named Cody Jack.
I know Cody.
You know Cody? Yeah, well, Cody, we was out there, and that was 98, and we had this goober as a boss. And, well, we're going to move some cows up this, this big ranch, 14,000 acre pasture. We got me, Cody, the boss's wife, and the boss. The boss's wife is driving a sook wagon, and Bill, he's leading the sook wagon. Instead of being on the back end helping us, he's like he was back in a wagon train. He's leading the wagon train because he had a little bit of that John Wayne syndrome. Wore starch white jeans and starch white shirt and starch jeans every day of his life.
smoking Winston cigarettes. And I mean, he talked out of the side of his mouth, boys, I'll tell you what. Well, he's leading the pickup. Well, they're leaving out too fast where all the cows are following them. Well, all the kids, me and Cody trying to push these sons up this mountain because we're going up this mountain, going up there. And they're wanting to run off, and then we get up to the top where it's flat, it's even worse. And boy, I'm cussing from God dang, God dang. Oh, no, he's leading that truck like he's leading the wagon train. Well, finally, 3 of them kids run out to the back, and I take off running after them. And you remember the scene in The Man from Snowy River? That's what I was. I running that son of a gun as fast. And I'm already riding a horse named Bob that everybody that ever rode Bob had a limp. Well, when it was over, I had my limp because I run through there and I bailed off top of that daggum deal, jumped over the road because the road cut down there, jumped over the road. Me and him hit them rocks. And last thing I remember was throwing my loop. And I don't know if the horse fell when I caught him or whatever. I caught him apparently because my rope was broke in half. And when Cody found me, I'm standing out there at the bottom, and my horse was grazing way over there. Got hide pulled off there, broke my wrist, broke my ankle, took all the hide off my head, cracked my jaw. And I was like, Cody had to catch my horse, put me on it. He'd lead me like a little 2-year-old up the mountain back to the deal. And I don't remember nothing, but that's where that temper gets your old Cody. I remember when we left out there because I was in wreck after wreck after wreck out there. And old Cody said, me and him had decided we were quitting. He said, I don't know where I'm going, but you've got to go with me where I'm going because this is the most entertained I've been in all my life. Yeah, because like I say, I'd lose my mind and I'd get some.
Hey, you know Corey Parker?
Yeah, he grew up over at Holiday, and I knew his dad and his family and all that. But
he told me to ask you about you were burying a horse, or somebody called you to bury a horse or something.
Oh no, I don't know if I could. This is hilarious. Well, I got an old friend of mine. She's a hell of a horse trainer. She just recently died, and good old gal, but she is feral to the max. I mean, old horse trainer. She got old, still got this. She had this one horse named Doc that was one bad cat, and she used to let me borrow it. And here a while, and I mean, if Clay Reid had, it might be this gal, and because she was feral as gal. And anyway, she called my buddy here months ago, and before she died, and said, hey, got to get over here. She's in Baldwin. He said, my horse is dead. My horse is dead. And her lot, she's got these stalls that goes right up into her house, made into her house, basically. And ain't nothing fancy, but they're made into her house. And got her a place where she can walk out her back door and put her hay out and feed her horse and all that. Well, god dang, she calls old Joey, my horse is dead. You got to get over here and bury him. Poor Joey told us, man, he said, I can't do that. He said, I got a bulldozer. He said, I got a bulldozer. I can't get into them stalls. You need somebody with a backhoe can reach over there and get it out of there. And so he gave her a friend of ours name. Well, got off the phone. Well, then a little bit later, she calls in a panic. Well, she couldn't get a hold of my buddy with the backhoe, so she decided she's just going to cremate old Doc. So she gets a 5-gallon can of gas and pours on her horse and going to just burn him there in the lot. Well, she lights the damn deal. Well, it turns out old Doc's not dead. Doc jumps up, and when he comes to fire, the alarm clock is on. We are up and starts running around this thing, little old short stall. And, of course, my buddy, she's freaking out. She done caught her lifelong buddy on fire. Ah! Well, then Doc goes up there and catches the hay on fire underneath the house, fixing to burn the whole damn house down. And finally, she called over, and they got over there and got it put out, and Doc lived. Yeah. Yeah, my wife, one of my other buddies, she works for my wife. She says, I was wondering when I come back there, he was all black. I said, yeah, it's called charbroil. Yeah. They finally put the horse down, but yeah, he lived through the whole damn deal. God dang. Yeah, Jackie's over there with a feed bucket pouring water on something. And he's, God dang. Yeah, she's wild. I remember one time I was sitting there eating and she reached over there and jerked her hair out of there and goes flossing her teeth with her hair. But man, she made some good horses. She is a hand. Just got old. Yeah, dang it. Yeah, she just died here a couple months
Gonna get
ago.
all of us eventually.
Yeah. That's why I say I hope I die a majestic death. I wrote a deal like that, a little story the other day on Facebook about that. I used to write for a couple magazines, North Texas Farm and Ranch, and Jessica Crabtree, Bo Crabtree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, she was. I started writing for them, wrote for them for like 3 years, and I enjoyed it and all that. But I'm not real good with deadlines. And old Jessica would call me on Monday, said, "Just a reminder that the deadline is Friday." I said, I got you. I got 5 days. That's cool. Well, every Friday of the deadline, I would wake up, which I don't ever sleep. I would go, oh crap. It'd be 4 o'clock in the morning. I go, I got to write a deal. So I'd go in there in front of that computer with my 2 fingers pecking and write a story in my underwear and a deal. And then one time, same deal. Friday, I woke up. Oh, God, no. So I go in there and I write this long story. Well, then next thing you know, because I was in a New Mexico State Championship coyote hunt in New Mexico. We were hunting at Tucumcari. So I get over there. Well, the next morning, Jessica calls me. She says, hey, Clay. I said, hey, did you not get my story? I wrote it yesterday. Yeah, but you wrote that same story last February. And I go, well, it ain't plagiarism if it's your own writing, is it? She goes, no. I said, was it accurate? She goes, it was spot on. I said, all right. So here I am, and I'm in a $12 motel in Tucumcari, and there ain't no hotel or a computer in that deal. So I go to this hotel. No, you can't use it. You're not a resident. Go to the next one. Go. Finally, I get over there to the Hampton Inn, and old Harold turned out he was the story of my deal. Yeah, I wrote the story about Harold and how he saved my life at 4:30 a.m. in Tucumcari. Yeah, and writing my stories. But finally, she called me one day and said, Clay, I'm gonna let you be the first to know that I'm moving in a different direction. I'm quitting the magazine. I said, well, I'm going to let you know I'm quitting with you. I said, because the only reason I didn't quit earlier is because respect for you. So she gave me a way out. But
That's funny.
But yeah, I wrote a story about a majestic death the other day. I'd like to, I don't want to, only hope all of us old cowpunchers, we'll have to work till noon till the day die, but I just hope that when I do die, it's a majestic death. I wrote a little short story while I was sitting there waiting on cows coming about an old man. He just buried his wife, and he saddles up his old horse, and he grabs his old deal, and he goes in and he finds the den where bear and old Grizz comes up, and he goes fights the Grizz and dies a majestic death. And that's how I would like to go out. Some way like that. I ain't going, when I get to the age where somebody's got a white mind, my days are spent. Everybody said, well, I wouldn't kill myself. I said, I'd do it in a heartbeat before I let somebody go. And, I had a buddy of mine just recently died, and me and him, he knew he was in bad shape, and he's an old cow punching some gun too, all of his life. Had a heart attack, and he had a stroke and all that. Well, then, of course, me and him, he talked. He said, you make sure you get me a gun. He said, because I don't want to live like that, And, well, then he got bad enough to where he couldn't do it, and begging for somebody to do it. And, God dang, I don't want to get to that point. That's like, everybody said something about smoking cigarettes, and I run a marathon when I was 50 years old and fat. I woke up one day and said, just, talking about challenges, I thought, I'll see if I can run a marathon. And 26.2 miles. So on June 29th, I weighed 250 pounds. I started running. I run 812 miles, and on December 5th, I run that marathon, 26.2 miles. Wasn't no problem. And I smoked cigarettes before I took off, and I smoked cigarette when I got done. Everybody said, well, that's going to kill you. And I said, that's the way I want it to do. If he's going to take me, I want it to be hard and fast. I said, and I'm going to be doing what I do. And I don't smoke cigarettes a whole lot anyway, but when I want to smoke a cigarette, I'll smoke it. When I smoked one more before I walked in here. And when I got out, I'll smoke them one after another and drink them Red Bulls till they're blue in the face. And
Did you pick that up when you were on the streets?
No. Like
just later on in
I've
life?
never been, and like I say, I may go a year and never smoke a cigarette.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a friend, doesn't have anything to do with smoking cigarettes, but he was an older gentleman, but he it was, I think it was the day before yesterday, he actually passed, but he had gotten cancer, and so I was kind of with him through the last couple of months also of his life. And when he came over here to tell us, it wasn't 2 months would be too long. It might have been 6 weeks ago. He didn't have much time after he found out, but he just made a comment. He's like, yeah, he wasn't even trying to be funny, but he said, I'm no longer buying green bananas, because he wasn't going to be able to see them get ripe.
Oh, really?
And it was literally to the point in his life where, he would buy food and it would still be good in the fridge.
Wow.
Before, like he was just, and the crazy part about it was just that he knew he was on a deadline,
yep.
Much like your friend, it sounds like.
Yep.
And obviously being a Christian, I spent some, had some conversations, with him about my walk and his walk, and we had those conversations, and I didn't really force it on him at all. Actually, I just kind of set it up, and he brought it up, and so we talked about that off and on. But regardless, I couldn't help but think about how I would respond if I knew my timeline, which, good heavens, I don't know that I would want to know when.
That's the biggest thing, because I'm a Christian too. Everybody, you don't equate me and Christianity, but I guarantee you, I have talked to God way more than the average man. I have cussed God. When I was 14, I jumped off a bridge, trying to kill myself. And about halfway down, I figured I didn't want to die as bad as I thought it would, because it hurt when I hit that bottom.
Your mind.
Yeah, and I've hung myself. I have OD'd. I just wasn't very good at suicide, and thankfully. But during them moments, me and God talked a lot, and God got me through everything I ever did. Luckily, my mom, when we growed up, which she died young, and that's one of my biggest regrets but anyway, going back to that, she made sure when that church was open, that old Pentecostal church, on Wednesday, we were in there. On Sunday morning, we were in there. Sunday night, we were in there. She took us to church and showed us the way. And so, and them Pentecostals now, they get wild. You don't fall asleep in Pentecostal church, because they get a lot of, they'll preachers see you back there, but they will heal you, because when I was 8 years old, I was running with a pen in my mouth, and I jobbed it up in my mouth, just like they tell you, don't run with a pen in your mouth. Well, I did. I jobbed it up there.
I've always heard that.
I would never be able to talk again, they said. It would always have trouble. So they put me on the healing bench, took me up there and put me on the healing bench, and all them women that speak in tongues went to fondling me on that bench. I'm standing there 8 years old going, what in the hell are we doing here? And, my papa, he said, I wish they'd have quit about 5 minutes earlier, because they overdid it with your, but I was able to talk. The only time I seen my dad go into that church was Easter Sunday one time, and there we had an old man in there that'd been in the 11 years I'd been going there. He was in a wheelchair. Never seen him out of a wheelchair. Well, he had pancreatic cancer. His will was he wanted to walk one more time before he died. So they put him on the healing bench, and they got all them went to fondling him around. And I'll kiss your old man Blevins, he doesn't stand up in that goddamn deal. Took 2 steps and fell over dead. But he took his 2 steps before he died. But no, I'm a godly guy, and I'll preach it to you if you want to hear it. But I'm not going to force it on anybody. But luckily, because I coach kids, all I ever wanted to be was a coach. So when I got a place and staying in, my kids started growing. For 30 years, I coached football, basketball, and I don't know nothing about basketball, but they didn't have nobody to coach them, so I coached them. But football and baseball and softball, I coached every kid that come through Archer City for many, many months. And I had more jobs, which had rewards later on in life because luckily, because I wasn't your normal coach, as you can probably imagine, but so I related to a lot of the kids. I didn't put up much crap with parents, but I related to the kids because I wasn't nothing but a big kid. And so we had a lot of good times. But when them kids become adults, I was able to mentor them and save some of them. One night I'm on Facebook. Everybody cusses Facebook, social media, and all that. But it saved a lot of guys' life. I just happened, because I don't ever sleep, I'm on there at 2 o'clock in the morning. One of the kids that used to play baseball for me, and he was a terrible baseball player, and he didn't want to play baseball, but his mama wanted to make him to play ball. But he was gay. And, when he finally come out that he was gay, and his mama was his everything, his mama disowned him, his brother disowned him, they wouldn't have nothing to him, and he was fixing to shoot himself in the middle of the night. So I spent 3 hours. Me and him had a good conversation about it and all this and and I told him, I said, just pray about it, buddy. I said, that's all we can do. And them times where stuff gets bad for me, I guarantee you I go to God and we have our talk. I'll find me a hill out in the middle of nowhere. He'll figure it out for you. And I said, but just because you're gay and all that, I'm not here to judge you on that. I can't preach to you on that. You made your path. You do what you want. But I guarantee you, he ain't forgot about you. So he goes out there, and the next thing you know, about a month later, his mama called him, and they got all of it straight. She come back to him. He's got a hairstylist shop down in Fort Worth, and everything's going good for him. Another time, I got a call from another kid that used to play ball for me. He's in the military. He's over there in the middle of Afghanistan, and he's struggling with the killing part of it. And what do you tell? I don't know nothing about the killing part of it, but those conversations about Christ and how he can cure them problems if you'll just talk to him about it. And granted, like I say, I ain't gonna. I'm not saying that I'm the perfect holy roller, but but I don't cheat on my wife. I don't steal. I do. My worst day is I cuss like a sailor, but none of us are without sin.
Yeah.
So that goes back to that judge book by cover, because you look at me, you think I'm an alcoholic, rambling, I cuss and all that, because I get misjudged all the time. Everybody swears that I'm an alcoholic, drink all the time. I don't even like beer. And, but everywhere I want to go, they want to feed me beer. And don't get me wrong, I have occasionally, but very occasionally, because usually when I do, it's too much. Like last year, I think the last time I drank to excess, because I was usually, because I don't like it, I will usually pour it out when nobody's looking, just because that peer pressure deal. And but that night I didn't at that Wyoming deal up there, and it made for a long drive back to Texas with a hangover the next morning. Yeah, because they got me drinking whiskey, and of course I didn't do nothing. We were just sitting there BS, and I went to bed to the hotel. But I drank enough where it gave me a migraine headache and queasy finger feeling in my belly, but no.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Corey, he builds fence for me, and he just said 2 or 3 times, we were talking about the podcast and podcast guests, he was like, you got to have Clay on there. You got some good stories.
Yeah.
So,
well, like I say, I've done a bunch of them, which is kind of weird, but I don't have, and I've got a list of 1,000 or more of them to do with Foxborough. Foxborough's got their own podcast, and it's big hunting podcast and all that, and they've been on mine to get on it. But I'm not one of them guys that can do that Skype deal.
Yeah.
I can't talk to a guy unless me and you's here. We can talk. That's this one. one in Midland and one in Knox City, I can go to them guys and I can BS.
Right.
But that talking to a computer screen, that is, don't have the same flavor.
Yeah, I can respect that. I'll go on them as a guest. I'll go on any podcast. If somebody has a podcast, if we can make the schedules line up,
Right.
or like yesterday, I had a guy use my studio. I'll loan my studio. I'll go on any podcast. But as far as my personal one, Rodeo Time, the Rodeo Time podcast, I like them to all be in person. It just makes it, I don't know. It's because that's how you have a conversation.
Exactly.
And guys like us, we don't like to FaceTime.
No,
you know,
I ain't like it.
And so, anyway, so yeah,
Well, I appreciate it. I've watched a couple of your podcasts, the only podcasts that I've ever watched.
Yeah.
I've actually watched a couple of years, and I appreciate you having those guys like Tom Morehouse and them guys. Those stories are getting lost. That guy I was talking about a while ago that wound up having a heart attack.
Yes, sir.
He was encyclopedia of stories like that. And every year they're going further and further away.
Well, we just had our most recent two right before you. Yesterday I did a podcast with Ryan Wakefield, and he's 37. He's not an old cowboy, but just telling his cowboy story. Before that, it was Tim Washington, who's a cowboy that has been on the Matador Ranch for 36 years.
Those
out on a camp.
Guy. Yeah.
And got a lot of stories about cowboy and what it was like early days, and I've got a few more scheduled.
Did you have old Boots O'Neill?
I had Boots O'Neill.
See, Boots O'Neill, they grew up over at Electra where I was. They were old Wagner hands. And Wes
was on too. I had Wes
he lives
on
over there, not too far from me.
Yeah, both of them still punch cows.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
then Tom Morehouse. That was another good one with some. And I've got. Tom introduced me to a gentleman that we'll put on, and I know Tom's brother Bob, and but anyhow, we've got a lot more planned of the old cowboy stories, but because that's what I like listening to.
Exactly.
And I've been in, next to Boots a few times and heard those stories, and it's just like, man, we got to share those, and so that's kind of where it started. Was just they're fun for me to listen to, and so that's what. If it's something I'm interested in, that's usually why it ends up on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming by. Hopefully our paths will cross again.
Absolutely.
And we'll get you fixed up. If you got anybody in your world that likes Dale Brisby, we got some Rodeo Time caps, and we'll send it on your way. So everybody you run into Mr. Clay Reid, anybody out there that has run into a Bigfoot, find Clay Reid on Facebook, and you guys, we need a group to form. One of these days, we're going to nail him down, and it won't be a silverback gorilla this time.
It'll be over.
Yeah. I'm Dale Brisby. It's Rodeo Time. I'm on to the next one. Pow, pow.